Guys, welcome back to the podcast. Now, today we're joined by our first guest on the podcast. I'm going to introduce you to him. He is a fellow personal trainer, now full-time online coach, Bill Brown. Welcome to the podcast.
Cheers, Jamie. First one I've done of these as well, so all good.
Good. Tell us a little bit about yourself before we go into the episode. Tell us a little bit about your background and what you're currently doing.
Bit of a late starter into this. So I'm 48 this year, but I've come from a long background of being into training and bodybuilding, and a lot of dieting through my life. Always grew up as a bit overweight in my youth. Um, Trained on and off for loads of years. Went down the corporate route from a work perspective. Started to get into coaching as I met my wife, started training her. People started to take notice. I thought I could do a bit of this on the side. Um, as I started doing that, the penny dropped. I was like, maybe this is something that could take hold. As it turned out, as you know, I ended up losing my job a couple of years ago through redundancy. I just decided if I don't do it now, I'll never do it. So I went all in, qualified as a PT, which kind of added to me already years of experience with training and learning about nutrition just through my own passion, really. And then took it from there. A few months later, went fully online, and here I am.
Here you are. And
Yeah,
we've met through Coaching Concierge,
yeah.
doing a business mentoring program. How long have you been in that now?
I think I'm on my eighth month.
Yeah.
So I started back in June last year. I'm sure we were both at London Live in July. And I can't remember whether I actually met you or whether I'd even spoke to you at that point because I'd already been in for a month. But shortly after that, I think we kind of struck up a few conversations just through the group calls and getting advice from each other, and it's just kind of sprung from there, really.
Yeah, I think we were in London Live with me because I'd come back from Australia in the it was in the July, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah,
I came back at the end of June for the event and then ended up staying in the UK. And yeah, we didn't actually cross paths at all, did we, on the day?
yeah,
No,
yeah.
but
It's weird.
we've been in contact a lot, haven't we, over the last few months since obviously the call,
Yeah.
and we have sort of weekly calls together and catch up on a few things business wise. Which is why we've brought you on for the episode today. So taking you back though into your journey from being redundant or being made redundant into personal training, what was like the big thing of wanting to go through it in personal training? What was it? Was it something like something from your own personal past, or was it just you wanted to get in and help what people? What was it?
It was one of those things that when you've been doing something like that for yourself for a lot of years, you're kind of like, this is a waste. You see so many people like struggling themselves, and you see it so often. You think, but I can help you. Like, and if only you'd listen to us and take my advice, I can give you a lot of help. So I thought, well, I need to give this a go because it's a wasted opportunity. I've got all these skills and all this knowledge that I've accrued over the years. It's just sitting going to waste. So I started coaching my wife, and then people in the gym started seeing the progress she was making. And they were like, "Oh, your wife looks fantastic. You should try coaching." And then I just took on a couple of mates, and then it just escalated from there, pretty rapidly, to be honest. So it's I've not looked back, not at all.
Brilliant, mate. And you coach both men and women, but now more predominantly you're coaching or looking to coach men.
Predominantly men in terms of who I would see as my ideal prospect, and that's not to say that women are not an ideal prospect either. It's more the case if I think where my own experience and if you want to be authentic in something and you want to lead by example, I'm a dad. I'm in my 40s. So my message and my experience and my backstory resonates much more closely with other men than it does other women. But purely from a PT background, you take on a 50-50 mix of all of them anyway. So I've still got quite a lot of women in my program as well. But as you know, from a business and marketing point of view, you've got to get quite specific about who who you what is in your shop window, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. We're both in that sort of that same position really. We've had a lot of experience of working with
Mm.
both, but now more sort of steering towards the direction of obviously working with more men. Which brings us on to today's sort of topic. The podcast is mainly for men. Few women do listen, but it is mainly for men. Um, so before we go into anything, give me a bit of a idea of the type of men that you are currently working with, the age demographic, what they're struggling with, and when we can maybe go into a few of the things that we see as like common traits within certain clients we work with, or men in general, that struggle to sort of move forward with one, their physical fitness, but also their mental aspect of their life as well.
Yeah, so I've got a few lads in their kind of mid to late 20s, but I would say the majority of people are in their 30s and 40s. I've got a few in their 50s as well, but the general kind of the main mix sits around kind of late 30s, early 40s. It's kind of that position in life where you're more likely to have settled down, you've started having kids, you're in the more kind of senior positions in your job, which means that for people at that age group, life is starting to get a bit busy. It's starting to get a bit hard. And that's when a lot of people kind of lose themselves. It's easy to keep fit and keep on the ball in your 20s when you haven't got as many responsibilities. But once you get into your 30s, especially 40s, that's the stage when people look back and like, Christ, what's happened? Where have I gone?
Mm.
And I think a lot of where that comes from is certainly with a lot of people, there's a bit of deep rooted just embarrassment in how they feel and how they look. And they've had enough. They've reached that point where enough's enough. Like they're not ready to take it anymore. And if they don't do something now, another 10 years, they're going to be in the 50s, then the 60s. So I think with that age group, there's definitely an element of you see that the time is now. I think a lot of people in their 20s can be a bit more kind of, well, I've still got time. I've got loads of time. Like I've got a long life ahead of us.
Yeah, totally agree with you. What is the thing you see more often? Is it like they haven't got enough knowledge, or is it more that they lack the accountability and structure to actually just get stuck into something that continue to progress their life and fitness and goal?
I think knowledge is a big one.
Yeah,
I think, yeah, everyone lacks accountability. And I've already got some thoughts on that. We'll probably delve a bit deeper into that as we go along, about why a coach is beneficial and why it isn't. But I think mainly it's the knowledge. People have a very broad view of what they need to do. They kind of a lot of people I speak to, they're doing most things right. They are already in the gym, they're already doing training, they're already eating healthy, as I keep hearing very often. But what they lack is specificity. There's kind of we use the word structure quite a lot in this call. There's no structure. There's no kind of they're doing all these things, they're juggling all these ideas, but so randomly. And then we've all been there. I've spent decades spinning my own wheels by just making random choices.
yeah. But do you think it's a mix of knowledge then? Even though there's so much information out there now, isn't it? We've got all the AI stuff that's out there, all the coaches, all the PTs that are out there providing so much information via online, Instagram, YouTube. There's so much content out there now, isn't there? Information. Do you think there's too much information that overwhelms them? They don't know what to do and they
I think
need
they don't know
some,
what to do with it.
yeah, they don't know
That's
what to
the
do with it.
case,
There's
they
no,
think they don't know what to do
and
with it.
it comes back to that word structure, doesn't it? And
Yeah.
there's a lack of structure, not just in their training goals, but in their life. And then it becomes maybe overwhelming. They can't find any consistency to that. They lack that structure.
Mm. I think um, I think there's a perception that there's too much to do, and I think that's what stops people getting going. Is they've got this idea that they need to get started, but like you say, it's so overwhelming because they've got in their mind that to go from what they're doing now to what they need to do is such a massive leap, and it's really not. It's much of the time it's just very small tweaks to what they're doing already, but they can't see that. And this is where you get into the whole mindset of just throwing the kitchen sink at everything,
Mm. The
which
all or
was
nothing, the all or nothing trap.
yeah, I'm in loads of conversations at the minute. Like, yeah, I'm back at it. I'm training 6 days a week. I'm like, yeah, that's not going to last.
No, I mentioned this yesterday on Instagram story. I spoke to someone the other day and they said to me, I'll quote it. They were like, I reached out to them as a message, they engaging content. And I asked them how they were getting on with what they were getting up to. I could see on their stories, they've been posting in the gym. And our quote, he was like, I'm all good at the moment, mates. I'm in a great phase with my health and fitness. And I said, that's great. It's great to hear because some people are in a bad phase of it. But if you think of health and fitness as a phase, you're constantly thinking of it as a phase and not a way of life. That's all it'll ever be. And you'll be constantly in this cycle of just like spinning your wheels with it and you'll be good for 3 months and then you'll come off it for 3 months and then you'll go back to it for a couple of weeks and you're just in this cycle. And that's an all or nothing mindset thing. But it's also thinking they need to go from like doing nothing to being all in. And that's where I feel not just obviously men, but I do feel a lot of men maybe struggle with it a little bit more than women. Because they feel they just need to, if they're going to get into something, they're going to be in the gym 5, 6 times a week. They're going to be diet themselves down or try to diet themselves down with an unrealistic approach with no sort of routine or structure around it and just eat less because they lack a little bit of knowledge around food side of things. Um, but they've got this ego then, but they don't want the help.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm. That's a big thing I see.
The one I hear a lot is, well, I've cut my drinking down a lot. Like, right, what have you replaced it with?
Yeah.
Because you can't tell me you haven't replaced it with anything.
Mm. Yeah, they're just gone cold
Mhm.
turkey a bit.
Yeah,
Yeah. But I think that's a mix of like you said at the start, knowledge, understand what's right for them, then lacking the structure, and then obviously the accountability and the consistency all sort of tie it in together is that they're lacking one that what's right for them, and then the structure to go with it, and then therefore they cannot be consistent or they cannot be accountable for themselves long term to see results for long term.
I was thinking about this quite a lot, and we use the word structure a lot in our content, and I'm starting to wonder whether people actually realize what we mean when we say structure. Like, how would you, if someone said to you, what exactly do you mean by structure? How would you summarize that?
I would summarize it in terms of one, you need to look at what your week looks like for you, what your day looks like for you, because every structure is going to be very, very different. Like a structure for me isn't going to maybe work for the next person. So it's, I think first is understanding what structure they need and what's going to work well for them. And that can be as simple as something like, if we take food, for example, a lot of people will think that they need to have loads of variety when it comes to cooking. And that's where most people go wrong, is they feel they need to have this extravagant meal plan to follow. When
Hmm.
really they just need a structure and understanding of the calories they need, especially if it's fat loss, a structure and an understanding of the calories they need to follow and rotate between 2 to 3 options for their three to four main meals. That's structure. That's structure for food. That isn't restrictive because it's just a structure that you've got that you can build for yourself.
Yeah.
It's not a restrictive way of eating. It's not going, I only eat these 3 meals because they've probably already eaten the same 3 meals anyway,
Hmm.
but with no structure to it, with no control over it, just winging it and just chucking things together. And it's probably the same foods. Like I post a lot on my content, the same foods every single day.
Hmm.
And it's to showcase that, yeah, I'm not that, I don't have to have this extravagant meal plan. But I've got a structure that works for me and I repeat it well and it allows me to stay in shape pretty much year round.
Hmm.
And that's what a lot of people miss. And then when it comes to the training side of things, I think men need to think they need to maybe doing like a sort of a bro split, we may call it. But for a lot of people, especially guys who are in their late 30s to early 40s, they just need a simple 3 to 4 day split that hits each muscle group.
Hmm.
And that's going to be more than enough alongside obviously daily movement and maybe some cardiovascular work if they need it from a health perspective. And that's going to be more than enough. And then you can manage all the other variables that's required around it. And that structure, that isn't, I think when we say structure, I think a lot of people think it's going to be restrictive and they think restriction when structure is just repeat things that are done well for you that suit your lifestyle. Not just this one structured approach. It's what works for you. And sometimes people have to go through a little bit of a trial and error to find what works for them. And they might just stumble across it and then they can stick to it.
Yeah,
Well, how would you describe it? How would you summarize it in the structure? Or the structure you provide for maybe clients or people that you speak to?
pretty similar. I try and get people to see it as a formula. You've got your main three variables, which are training, daily movement, and calories. Obviously, you've got other things like digestion, daily habits, and everything else. But I think the three key ones that we all try and dial in first are um, daily movement, training, and nutrition. And it's just basically that's your formula. You come up with a certain dose of each one that complements each other. That when you get those three dialed in, they create the environment to get the result that the person's after. And it's basically just each one of those just has a set of boundaries. It's, you've got a goalpost at either side. It's within there and there, and you just have to kind of bounce between those boundaries and not veer off. As long as you keep within that and you keep within that lane, then the results will come. And if they don't come, you move lane slightly. And it's really as simple as that. I
Yeah,
think
I love that.
I think where people come unstuck, I don't know if I'm jumping the gun. This might be answering a question you've already got for later on. I think where coach comes in on this side of things is people don't tend to be able to stick to a structure by themselves very well because people on their own get caught up with their own emotions and they make emotional decisions. So the thing you see really often is, and it happens to me, it happens to the best of us. You get a couple of weeks in and you see a result that you don't like and you start questioning every single thing you're doing. Should I be training more? Should I be doing more steps? Should I be switching my diet? Should I be doing this? Should I be changing my exercises? And then you end up making silly decisions on your own because you don't trust what's happening and you don't trust yourself. Because you can't be objective about it because you're too caught up in your own emotions. Whereas the whole point of having a coach is they can step back and take a helicopter view and look objectively and go, no, just never mind how you're feeling. I'm seeing it for what it is. Stick to what you're doing. It's working. Don't veer off. And that's the bit people need. That's the accountability. They need someone to kind of almost tell them to trust the process.
Yeah,
Like don't get carried away with how you're feeling. Like you're not putting weight on the you this happens a lot when I've got a couple of women who I'm now kind of putting into a lean build phase. They've lost loads of weight. Now they want to put a bit of muscle on. As soon as you put their calories up, I'm getting fat. I'm getting fat. Like you're not. Seriously, I can see everything that you can't. You're just getting emotionally tied in by how you feel mentally, and I can see everything in front of us. There's nothing in the data that suggests that anything's going wrong. Keep doing what you're doing. Oh, okay, okay, thanks.
yeah. I had the same situation today with actually. I think we both coach both our partners, and
Yeah,
she's in this phase of like a lean build phase, very very lean already, but she needs to go through this phase. Can't diet forever, as we know. And she reaches out to me with, "Oh, why aren't I looking like this yet?" Or something like, and this is a comparison that a lot of people get into, not just obviously women, but men do as well. And we start comparing ourselves to other people. And like you said, that ability to have someone in your corner to be able to zoom out and look at the data, look at everything and go, trust the process. And trust the process is something that anybody can say to you. But actually giving you specifics of what to trust is so important, isn't it? Like trust what you're doing right
yeah,
now. This is for a period, and this is the importance of phasing, isn't it? Of like when we think
yeah,
about phasing, like whether you're in a fat loss phase, whether you're in a reverse diet phase, or whether you're in potentially a maintenance or building phase, that is the understanding of someone knowing the phase they're in, so they don't go out of control and their emotions don't go out of control when they're not seeing what they want maybe on a daily basis. How many times if you get on the scale, you're gonna have fluctuations and you're gonna think, oh my God, I get fat because it's jumped up by half a kilo overnight. And there's so many different things that affect that. And I think having an understanding and having someone in your corner to be able to go, trust that what you're doing is absolutely fine at the moment. We need to run this now for a few more weeks, and this is when we'll assess it. And having that calming influence around you, whether it's a coach, whether it's a friend, whatever it is, I think that is like really, really important. Someone's ability to stay consistent longer.
Yeah. I've had a couple of guys just in the last 2 weeks getting a little bit antsy. Like, I think I should throw this in. Do you think can we change exercises yet? I really want to do this one. Like, well, we can, but can you just leave it for a couple of weeks? We're nearly at the end of this block. Like, let's just leave it where it is. Like, I understand you want to do something else, but there's nothing really to gain or lose by changing anything at the moment. Um, you know, I mean, this is another one. People who want to keep changing their routines all the time. The best bodybuilders in the world barely change their routines at all. They keep the same movements in. They might tweak a few little things over time, but generally you have the same movement patterns and you bury them into the ground until you can't progress them anymore. Then you switch something else out. So as long as you're still making progress on it, keep going.
Mm.
And even
Definitely.
then, if you stop making progress, I would still question why have you stopped making progress? Is there another way around it to keep making progress? Then, when you've exhausted all other variables, then switch something else out.
Mm. What do you see that more with men as a pros for wanting to change things, like
Yeah,
with, or do you see it more with women? What would you
I
say?
think I think more with men.
Do you think that is a where men maybe a bit more confident in the gym because they've had some experience training for a while over than what women have? Do you think that
I
they
think,
think they know what they're doing, sort of thing?
yeah, I think men want more variety in the gym, but are happy to be have less variety in the kitchen. But
Mm.
with women, it's the opposite way around.
Yeah,
Women are the ones who come up and say, "I'm sick of eating the same thing every week," but they're happy just to continue on the same training.
yeah. It's a great psychology study that because I
Yeah.
think from a men's perspective, they want it to really simplistic in the kitchen and they want it to keep it simple and they can just follow it. They may deviate away from time a little bit, but they can just follow it and they can work it out. Where in the gym, they feel I don't know whether it's an ego thing or whether they think they should be doing something different because they've seen another guy doing something, they think I could be doing that.
Yeah.
And that comes into a bit of an ego thing, I think, where women when they're in the gym, because they maybe lack a little bit more confidence, so they lack confidence, they're happy to stay doing what they're doing because it's giving them confidence in it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, I think that's
Definitely.
the psychology sort of scope behind it. Um, so going on to the ego thing then, do you have or have you trained a lot of clients who've had that ego and tried to take over a little bit from a coaching perspective? Have you had that before?
Not yet.
No.
I haven't taken anyone on who's got a massive ego. Touch wood.
Mm. Yeah,
You?
I've had bits, not so much in my like coaching online, more so on the gym floor when I was beating in the gym floor. I've had maybe
Mm.
guys who tried to maybe dictate the sessions a little bit, and I was very obviously young in my career and at that stage, so I'd probably let them maybe override me a little bit. But now I've progressed on as a coach and upskilled coach. I've got more knowledge and more confidence in my ability to zoom out and go, no, it's what needs to be done. And I do think that men need that more than they think.
Mhm.
I think they do need a little bit more of like a direct approach than maybe an arm on the shoulder. Obviously, everything's different, but I think that will land well into making sure that they need to do what's right to get them to the goal.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think probably where one change does come in, where people ask is they'll see me doing something completely different to what I've got them doing, and they'll be like, "Why are you doing that?" And I'm doing this. Like, well, I've been doing it a lot longer. Um, there's nothing wrong with what you're doing. I've done that before. I've just chosen to do something different because I need something different at this point in time. I did what you were doing for long enough. Um, more towards different approaches. Certainly around things like how many sets you perform, what kind of intensity you go to, how many intensity techniques you use. Most people are not really ready for that yet.
Mm. Absolutely.
Um, this is why. I have started, even though I've stopped PTing, I have actually started trying to get more sessions in with clients, but
Like
not as
training with them.
PT sessions. Yeah, but just
Mm,
more kind of offer like, look, I'm going to be in the gym at this time doing my session. If you want to come along and train with me, you can.
mm,
Um, I won't do it the other way around. I'm not going to take out time of my own day for free to train with someone on their time, but I'm more than happy for someone to come in and shadow me and train with me, and I'll even do their session with them
mm,
if they want, to get them, and maybe in those sessions I'll start giving people a bit of, you know, this is what I do, this is how I train, and give them a few like different things like rest poses and drop sets and stuff like that. Where I would never kind of program those things in for most people.
yeah, it can definitely challenge what they're capable of from an intensity perspective. That make your training very, very different to your clients, which will be to a lot of your clients. That it really does test their ability in the gym and their intensity, more so what you can see from just obviously the video feedback or feedback you get from check-ins, for
Mm.
example.
One thing I do find a real struggle is getting people to video.
Yeah.
They seem very reluctant to video themselves and send it in.
What do you think?
Uh,
What do you think that is? Is that a confidence thing from the client itself, or the person you're working with, or do you just think it's they just don't want to do it?
bit of both, I think. I
Bit of
think a
both.
lot of them. I think a lot of them are in that kind of mindset where they don't want to be that person in the gym who's set a camera up to video themselves,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
most people are kind of, you know what it's like. Oh, tripod wanker.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
absolutely. That's perception,
um,
isn't it?
but it is kind of a thing for from the last like last 5 years really. People
Yeah.
doing that, and yeah, it's a shame though.
Do you
Um,
think how important do you think that is for a client who's been coached online to be able to? Do you think that should be phased in? Like for me, with clients, I will always focus on it, depending on obviously the goal of the client. Let's just take it for as an example of someone who's coming in who's got no structure, they're looking to drop body fat, get stronger over time, and potentially build a body that they keep more proud of. In that early phase for an individual, is it really important for them to be able to see that intensity and that execution of training, or does that come maybe at around sort of week 7 and 8 after you've built all the habits of the food and you've got to move forward? Where would you like to position, or where would you say that the importance is for training with that feedback from clients?
I would like to see it from day one, to be honest, even
Mm,
just from a form and technique point of view than anything else. Um, for a fat loss client, I'm not as worried about intensity, really.
no, of course.
Um, because even if they're like 60, 70, 80%, trying their best,
Mm,
they're still probably going to do enough um, that's going to elicit some response while they're in a deficit.
mm,
But it's not going to be enough to be the stimulus they need to grow muscle in a build phase. But while they're dropping fat, for most people, I don't think they need to be like really hammering it that hard.
mm. Listen, and that's the important of phases, isn't it? Understanding what needs to be the focus in the phase.
But then I do I'm contradicting myself because I do actually try and get people to. I don't use the RPE or reps and reserve scheme.
Mm,
I tell everyone to. I want everyone to push to failure on all sets. Mainly because at the stage they're at, I know it's not going to be massively intense. It's not going to be
mm,
massively. They're not using the loads that are going to put them at like major risk. Like their idea of I've gone to failure is nowhere near what it will be. So I'm more than happy to tell people to go to concentric failure on most sets and to keep pushing for progressions every week because I kind of know what that will look like.
yeah.
Um, but it's they need to learn what that is to understand what it means to back off.
Mm,
Like I I do programming like a lot of deload weeks for people around
yeah.
somewhere between like week 6 and 8. But then they could come back and say, like, I really don't want to. Like, I'm fine. I'm really fine. Like, I'm recovering fine. I'm in a role at the minute. And like, fine.
Yeah.
Like, we'll leave it another couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think that just comes down to it being very case specific, and
Yeah,
what's
yeah.
the goal of the individual as well. Obviously, we touched a little bit on training, we touched a little bit on structure. Let's talk a little bit about the big theme in the episodes that I've already recorded is mindset and identity.
Yeah.
So, where would you rank that total mindset and identity? We put them in the same box. Where would you rank that as importance for the results of someone you're looking?
I think it comes a little bit later. I think for the first few weeks of just getting started, the fact that they've gone from nothing to something, there's already a shift in identity there. And the fact that I was thinking a lot about this, and this is something that I've tried to think about how I can explain this to my clients. If you've got a baseline here, which is nothing, and you start doing something, which is more, it's over and above what you were doing before, there's already an identity shift because you are now operating at a level that you were not operating at before. And what happens is the results go from there and they catch up. Where people get stuck is they think that if they keep doing this, the results are going to keep going past, and it
Mm,
doesn't. You've got to keep going up, and the results catch up. It's the same with us in the business. Um, for to get to the next, once you plateau and you want to get the next level of results, you have to operate at a much higher standard and level than you were before for it to catch up with you. You don't just keep spinning this thing and it just produces like endlessly ongoing results. It just doesn't happen. And this is when people are like, I've been training for 2 weeks now and like my weights aren't going up and my reps aren't going up. It's like because you're now training at the same output that you have been for the last 3 or 4 weeks.
mm,
So you need to take on a new mindset and you need to think differently about how you're operating and what you're doing.
yeah, I love that taking it because I think a lot of people think I need to be in the right mindset first to be able to get started. And I need to be in a brand new identity straight away. But what you said and how you explained that in terms of making a start, getting started is already a shift. It's already a change. And then you start to see changes and your expectation of yourself starts to change. So then
Hmm.
you need to then go to a new identity constantly. The more rungs of the ladder you're climbing to that success you're going, you need to step into a new identity every single time. And I think we hear a lot in the business program we're in. I think Mark puts it like something along the lines of like every new level is a new devil.
Yeah,
And it's the same with your fitness journey and whatever you with your fitness goals. You're going to go to a new position and it's going to require you to step into a new form of identity or an area of your life that maybe might need to change or you might need to say no to. And that's a shift in mindset. That's a shift in identity. That's a shift in who you are. And that's, I think, how people will sustain results when they're constantly in that phase where they know there's more room for growth and they know there's more room for personal development in the journey. I think a lot of people will get to the result and think that that's it. And
yeah.
then there hasn't been that maybe they've had the initial shift to get them there, but then it's the next shift, isn't it? Of how do I sustain this or how do I get more than it?
The best thing I was told was whenever things get hard, that's a sign that you're close to a breakthrough.
Mm,
No, that's not the time to give up. When things get really, really hard and you're struggling and you're about to give up, that you're so close to the next level, the next result. It's like if
yeah,
you keep pushing past that little bit, like what you want is on the other side
on the other
of the
side,
bit
yeah,
that's really hard.
yeah, love that. Do you see that with a lot of clients we work with where they have that initial shift and they may see that initial result in the first 4 to 6 weeks, and they get to a point where they not flatline as such, but they don't move as it's not moving as quickly as they want to in terms of the result and progress they're looking at. And it may be needed to tell them that they need to go into step into a new identity or look at what they're doing to make sure they can keep on moving forward. That's something that comes up a lot with your clients.
What will come up a lot is if you think of if you think of a start and end of a goal as being like a curve that gets steeper
Mm,
as you get to the top. So the close to your goal is really easy. It's not as steep. But then as you get close to the end goal, it gets harder and harder and harder.
yeah,
And rather than you pushing to get past, um, people start slipping down that steep bit and back. I notice this a lot when people say if they set themselves a target of I want to lose a stone, and then they get to £10 and then £12, and then the little imp on their shoulders kind of saying, "But you've done so well to lose £10," and then they struggle to get that last £2 to £4 off because, but you've done so well, and they lack that commitment just to get over the edge. So potentially that's where you need to go. Right, I've moved the goal. You've picked the goal up and you've put it over here now.
mm,
So I think that's what we need to keep doing. Is whenever someone gets within like 2/3 of the way towards a goal, you like pick it up and go right. I'm moving that.
stretching the vision a bit.
Yeah,
Mm. Yeah, it's something you have to do quite regularly then. That's something you feel you have to do regularly. Like with people who've been in the program or people who've been being coached by you for say 12 weeks or more.
here's what I try to do. Yeah,
Mm.
because I'll always break it up into phases. Like I won't try and get anyone to think any further ahead than maybe 6 to 8 weeks at a time.
Yeah.
Just because I think it's too much.
Mm.
Anyone can get their head down and focus for 6 to 8 weeks. Well, most people find it easier, but that's not to say that's the end. That just means like you're coming up to a reset, and then it's like right, pick it up, put it further out. Now we're going to go for that next one.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. Yeah. So what would you say then that if to a guy listening, they're in a position where they've been in the gym for a period of time, feeling like they're going at it alone, or they've been going at it alone for a period of time, but haven't seen much progress or the progress they wanted. Where would you, what would your first advice be to that person as to what they need to change to start seeing progress?
Probably ask them to map out exactly what it is they have been doing,
Mm,
and then look at what their particular goal is, and then just kind of hold the mirror up and say the reason why that hasn't worked is you've been doing this. Here's the errors. Here's the things that you've been doing wrong. Or rather, they might not have been doing anything wrong, but they've omitted to do a lot of the things right that they should have been doing. It's just kind of like flipping it on its head and showing them the reason you haven't got here is because this is what you've been doing and this is what's wrong with it.
yeah. So do you think that's if we look at the pillars we've spoken about, if talk of nutrition, training, mindset, confidence, ego, those sort of things that we mentioned, do you think it's a combination of all of them, or do you think it's something, obviously, that's very, can be very case specific, but as a something that you'd see very often from someone? Is it more the mindset, or is it more the specifics of the training nutrition? I don't know what to do.
In terms of why they're not getting results or why
Why
they
they're not
don't.
making why they're not making the progress? Yeah. What's the common thing that you would see, or you've had in conversation with someone who's dealt with?
Not measuring anything,
Mm,
literally just going through the motions and doing all the things that they think they right, like that I eat healthy, I'm in the gym. Yeah, but what is it? Like
so,
what is
no
what you're doing
data.
on week one any different to what you're doing 2 months later?
So no
And
data,
how are
essentially.
you measuring that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think most people don't measure anything.
Mm,
Um, I think logbooking is, did I say that right? Yeah, is becoming more common. I think more people do actually log their training now because there's a lot of top pros that are actually, you know, talking about it quite a lot. So I think it is a bigger thing than it used to be.
mm.
Um, what's the other thing?
I think it's got a lot easier to log as well with the Thrive apps in terms of training. Like people have access to apps, it's easier to log training through that as opposed to maybe the standard logbook. Even though I quite like to do the standard logbook as well. But I think the app side of things is a lot easier to track progress, isn't it?
Still think it comes down to the emotional decisions. I think even if you've got someone who's they're tracking everything, they're logging everything, they're doing everything right, they're sticking to the right framework, the right structure, but because they're doing it on their own and they haven't got someone to bounce ideas off, they'll change it halfway through because they've made emotional decisions based on, well, something's not working. I think the other big thing is that's sorry, I'm going off on one. That's more people who are struggling now. When you've got people in, the thing that I'm finding the biggest driver to kind of stay adherent to something is to actually put a formal line in the sand and a date and a deadline and actually put a little bit of pressure and commitment on yourself by telling everyone else what you're doing. So I've just had one of my guys who he's been with me a while, he's done really, really well. He's seen me do my photo shoot last year and he's kind of like, oh, I want abs for the summer. I want to look like that. I was like, well, we've got plenty of time. Let's go. And every other week, he'll drift. He'll do well for a week and then he'll drift. And then something will come up and then he'll drift. And I said, look, you haven't got like a specific date in mind to get this done. There's no pressure. I said, let's say you want to drop another stone or another stone and a half by June. Does June matter? Or does the second week of June matter? Or does the third week of June matter? Because you'll rationalize with yourself in between now and then and say, I'll go out this weekend because it doesn't matter if my June deadline slips to the second week of June. So what I've tied them into now is I'm going on holiday in the end of May. So that's my prep. I'm going to announce that. I'm going to publicly announce I'm going to get into my best shape on holiday because when I start posting all my stuff when I'm away, I want to look in good shape. And I've now said to this guy, we've got 11 weeks. So are you in? Are you out? Are you going to do this with me? Because I'm going to post it on Instagram. I'm going to tell all my followers and all of your followers that in 11 weeks' time, me and Mark are going to hit the 25th of May, and we're going to do a mini photo shoot at one of the gyms. And like, you can't get out of it. You can't fuck up now. You can't just go off and decide you're gonna sabotage it because you've now told everyone. And I think putting that little bit of I was the same when I did my photo shoot. Once I paid for it and there was a date in the diary, there was no way I was going to go off. Not a chance. Like there was no one was going to make me kind of go off plan. So I think people need that as well.
You were
I think
dialed in. You were
well,
dialed. You were dialed in. You coached yourself, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah, you
I
coached,
did.
and that takes a lot of effort. Like I when I've gone through my shoots, and we'll get on the topic of that in a second. But when I've gone through my shoots, I've always had a coach that do it, like my coach always now. And to do it by yourself and take yourself through it is another level of mentality, like, because you've committed. Okay, you've announced it, and you put that on maybe on yourself. Make sure you do it, but you stepped in. When we talk about identity, you
Hmm.
have to step into a new identity to everything.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I would love to have a coach myself. Um, it's an extra added expense at the moment that I would love to get someone. I wish I'd had a coach for after the shoot,
Yeah, the reverse phase of that.
the reverse phase.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because
We'll touch upon that in a minute, Phil. I think staying on that topic of like what you said there about your clients and given that urgency, given that date should drive someone to, and that should be the driver to get someone pushing towards the goal. Because we've got
everyone should have some urgency. There
yeah,
should there should be a reason. There should be a deep need for them to want the result they're going for. And if they haven't got that, they're not going to adhere.
it's too wishy-washy if there's no goal set, isn't it? If it's just I want to lose a stone by that date, but what does that do for your life? If you can actually set a date and do it by then, I think that's the yeah. I think that's what
It's, ac-
a lot of people struggle with.
this actually leads quite well into values, doesn't it? Because people will only people will only adhere to something to get or create that urgency if it's something they value really highly. If it drops down out of their value list and priority to something else, doesn't mean that they don't want it. It just means that it's
Higher
it's now
values.
no longer as important as everything else.
mm,
They've got other needs which rank much higher, and that's the sticking point. That's the bit where clients do go off,
mm.
because how much they value that end result dwindles.
Do you think people find it difficult to identify their values? With men and women as well, do they think they find it challenging to identify what their values are?
Yeah, yeah, I do.
Mm, I do as well.
I,
Sometimes
th-
it
I
can be a lot
think
of define.
I think it's very surface level.
Mm,
When they come in and start these things. Um, but I think that is a challenge as well. Is getting them to actually really think about how do you make this important? How do you draw up a list of reasons why this means more to you than something else?
yeah, yeah, I think it's an important point to mention. I think a lot of people don't understand their values, and it's like you say, it's one of the reasons why they find it very, very difficult to stay consistent.
Hmm.
It can be a value for a period of weeks, then it can change, and all of a sudden there's no reason to go there. You stick
Yeah,
with what
like
it will.
I've got one guy we've talked about him before. Very high um, need and urgency from a health perspective,
Mm,
but his core values are not his health. His core values are being around for his family and his friends, helping his friends out. They're not spending time on himself to better himself. It's if anyone else asks for his help, he wants to be there to help other people and puts himself last. So he's
What,
devaluing himself by valuing other people more.
so what do you think that is from a personality trait perspective? You think that's like you put him in that maybe you put him in the camp of like trying to people please as opposed to doing what he needed to do for himself?
Say again, sorry.
Would you say that he's maybe in that camp of maybe if he's not valuing his own health, like you said, he needs to value his own health based off where he's at, but he's in that he values people pleasing and pleasing others as
Yeah,
opposed, yeah. If his health
yeah.
isn't there, he can't, he's not able to do that.
We'll come around again
That's it.
because people will wait for the wake up call.
Mm,
They'll get to that point where the wake up call hits them and they'll realize it's either almost too late or it is too late.
yeah. Have you ever had one of those feelings on yourself, your own personal journey? Like I know you mentioned before where you were bigger before you lost the weight and got to get yourself in shape. Did you get to that point when you were, say, bigger that you had to go, right, this will change and I need to focus on health itself as linked with other values, or was it just oh, I had enough of this and I've got to do something about it? What was the thing?
A couple of things happened at the same time. So when my wife was pregnant with our first, um, I kind of joined the whole, women eat more when they're pregnant,
Mm,
and they want a lot of like takeaways and stuff. And I probably overdid that for my wife. um, I did it worse than she did. So I joined in with the comfort eating, and I put loads of weight on, and it continued even after like Logan was born. I just continued drinking and eating takeaways, and I was on paternity leave. There was two things that happened. One, I've mentioned it in one of my posts. There was a Christmas party where someone had taken a photo of me from behind. I was sat on a chair and my guts were just spilling over the sides of the chair, and I was like, "What the hell is that?" So that was all around the same time. But then I was on paternity leave for 2 weeks, and I was like, "Claire, I can't get my work clothes on. Like, I've actually put more weight on over the 2 weeks since he was born, and I'm going back to work next week. I can't get my clothes on. I can't get my trousers fastened. I can't get my shirt buttoned." Um, so I was lying in bed that morning, and I was on my phone looking for gyms. I was like, I need to smart. I need to go back to the gym. And I went straight back into what I did when I was younger, just like all or nothing bodybuilder mode. I don't, when I say all or nothing, I wasn't like all or nothing. Oh, I've got to train 6 days a week. It was a right. I'm going to start buying creatine and protein powders and
yeah,
and, and start watching Pumping Iron every
yeah.
night. Um, like when I get into something, I go kind of all
Mm,
in
yeah.
terms of like how much interest I put into it and stuff. So. yeah, that's kind of that was the wake up call, I think.
Yeah, I think that segues quite nicely onto maybe the last bit of the concept of mindset. But I think where you mentioned, obviously, you got to the point where you felt that something needs to change. And I've gone through that in my own personal journey where I felt something needs to change. And that was from a lifestyle perspective, a work perspective for me. Well, it was never really like a weight perspective. It was more so a mindset, lifestyle, hate the job I was in. I use getting in shape to change my life. And how big of an impact do you feel that is for not just guys, but women as well? How is getting into your best shape? How important is that to you and maybe to the clients you work with to changing who they are and changing their confidence and their belief in themselves? How high would you rank that? I personally I rank that at the highest point. Like, if you can get into the best shape, and it doesn't have to be photo shoot level, but the best shape of your like you deem as your best shape or the best shape you've been in. I think that does wonders for someone's confidence because they see someone they never thought was possible. And that's a little bit of my tool when I did my first photo shoot. I never imagined myself the way I looked on my personal photo shoot.
Hmm.
And that feeling of capture, I told the story loads of times where I caught myself on the focus camera. I was like, wow, is that me? Like,
Yeah,
and
I was the same.
you were the
I
same when you, I remember you sent me your photo
uh,
shoot photos and you said, wow, you can believe it was you. And
yeah.
that, if you could bottle that feeling and give that to someone, like, that's why I think health, fitness, getting in your best shape is the best thing you can do for your overall confidence, your overall self-esteem, your self-belief in yourself. Like, how highly would you rank that based on your experience of one, turning your life around and losing weight, but also getting into the best shape of your life, well, most recently when you did your recent coaching? How high would you rank that for someone listening and a message to leave someone of thinking they want to change their life, turn their life around, turn their mindset around? Give me your feedback there on getting in the best shape of your life, losing weight, what that's done for your whole life.
I wouldn't even say it it needed to go as far as getting in the best shape. I think for me it was starting training, and I ranked that right at the very top. Um, I was trying to explain to my best mate. We were out one weekend just having a few beers, and we were talking about stuff. And like he's never ever like when you train, when you do weight training, and you realize all your friends don't, and you go into social places with people that don't train, you're like, I don't get these people. Why would you not train? Like why are you not into this? Like it's great. Why are you not into this? And I was trying to explain to him, like it's not about muscles. It's not about like the vain aesthetic thing that you think it is. It's when you start training and you get into this mindset when you go to the gym that it's you against you and you're pushing hard to beat your previous best to become better than you were last week. That that doesn't just stay in that session. That kind of that moves into every other area of your life. Like the amount of effort and intensity you can put into something means that things that are less than that become easy. So when you face other situations in your life where whether it's I don't know whatever thing that seems to be a hardship, it could be something just really small like I have to do an extra couple hours work, I have to get up early, or I have to do this, I have to do that. Those things just become so easy in your mind because of the amount of hard work you've had to do to put in to do what you're doing. So yeah, it does go further. Like training is the start. Once you've experienced a long process of that to get into shape, then you know what hard work takes and you know what you get out of it. If you can work hard doing that, you can work so much harder at every other area in your life, whether that's you work, your job, or whatever you do with if you play a sport or how you approach stuff you do with your family or like everything you do levels up when you level up.
Mm.
It's not just what you do in the gym, but the gym starts it. The gym just like, and I was trying to explain this to me, mate. I was like, you would be so much better in every other area of your life if you just lifted.
Yeah, what that it's the discipline it gives you, and training
Yeah,
is the discipline it gives
yeah.
you, and that's what I was saying that me being in the best shape of my life, and seeing it for the first time. It was never about the shape. It was looking about who I'd sort of become in that
Mm,
process. It was like, and that goes back to what you said, the original point, the start of it, the training, what that was giving me in terms of belief, what that was giving me getting to that final point. Whereas like, wow, couldn't believe it. But I hadn't even obviously that was the goal, but I hadn't thought about what it would be like. And when you actually break it down, look back and go, it was everything that I didn't that I did throughout the process that got me to that point and got me to that feeling. And that was the
yeah,
feeling that it gave me that I could achieve it. And I think starting from, like you said, the base level of just getting yourself into the gym and training, starting from there is is powerful.
yeah. How many times have you heard someone complain about having to do something? And to us, you're just like, really? Like, you're complaining about that? That's so trivial. Like,
Give
that's
me
so
give
easy.
me give me some context. What give me an example and I'll be able to put something on it. A little bit of thing.
It's like when people complain about something that they see as a bit of a hardship,
Mm,
um, because they haven't built any discipline to do it. Like like people who complain about having to cook or prep a meal or get up an hour early to go for a walk or or just any of these things. You're like, for God's sake, give yourself a shake. Like,
yeah, yeah, and that's what going back to your point. That's what training can give you. That's what sticking to something can give you a belief that actually that you can do that. The thing that you're sort of given an excuse to not do, like prepping a meal, for example, or structuring your week, for example. I think the more you can put yourself into good environments, positive environments that are building self-belief and discipline, it will just transfer over to like
proof
it
building,
like
isn't it?
mm, yeah,
It's a proof building, and this comes down to people who constantly talk about they put themselves in the past. Like, I used to be this, or this is just me. This is how I do it. This is how I've always been. It's like, yeah, but how you've always been doesn't. That's got nothing to do with how you can be.
mm,
You've only got to do it once or twice. Then you've got two proof points. Build it into three, then four, then five. Then you've got enough proof points that you stop saying, "I used to. This is just me. This is what I used to do." To, well, actually, I can do this because I've proved to myself that I can. So
yeah.
there's the shift already. But
Mm.
you've got to just like get started and do it in the first place.
Build your character, isn't it? I think that's probably a good place to finish on. Where going back to your original point, the training side of things, the more you can do good for yourself, it'll build the discipline, it'll build more character, and you'll start to level up. Your identity will start to level up, and you'll
Mm,
start to get to where you want to be. Of once where you just wish to get there, but just
mm.
getting started with the basics, things that we talk about all the time, structure. It'll build your character and it'll build a belief in yourself that you can actually go on to achieve anything.
Well, probably a good point for anyone listening as well who's on that kind of on the fence of they want to do something, but they're a bit overwhelmed by what it's going to entail. Everyone should be met where they are and just start very whatever they can manage.
Mm.
And it's amazing just how quickly you can scale things up yourself once you just start with something. No one has to start with doing CrossFit 6 times a week and you know crazy
Fall in,
stuff like
fall into a high rock.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's happening all over now, isn't it? Happening all over.
Mm.
I'm going to ask one question though before we wrap it up. What would be your message to a man listening to a podcast or anybody listening to a podcast and they're stuck in a position where they're not progressing or they're stuck in a rut? Let's say they're stuck in a rut. What would be your message to them? An actual bit of advice you give them to get them started? I know we touched upon loads of it and we've gone back and forth a loads of different topics. What would be your one piece of advice you would give them? Um, Get a move forward.
Stop being stubborn and accept that you can't just do this on your own. if you've already proved to yourself that you can't do this on your own, stop being stubborn and thinking that it's wrong to ask for help. You know, how many times do we offer help to people and they just people see it as a weakness. They see asking for help as a weakness. Um, and it's not. We've got coaches of our own.
Mm, yeah, Be-
Um,
yeah. Like being vulnerable and stop being stubborn is a great message to send out
and
and we'll leave it there.
hold your hand up and say you don't know everything.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. I love that stuff. But great to have you on the first
Yeah,
episode on the reinvention of the podcast. Um, where can listeners find you? Obviously on Instagram, Facebook, and your website as well. Plug that in. Um,
yeah. At RPB underscore coaching. Um, Phil E Brown on Facebook. And rpb coaching.com.
brilliant. Thanks for coming on, Phil. And
No,
I'll
it was a pleasure. Really
all you
good.
guys, catch all you guys in next episode.